are we all? Hope you're all good. Right, I'm going to make a start, and then anybody else that joins me as we're going along is a bonus, because I said bring a pen and paper if you wanted to make the card, because there are measurements. But I've done all the prep, I've done all the bits and pieces, I've done all the embossing and the inking and the most of the gluing and everything. So it's just basically running through the measurements and putting it together. But what I wanted to do first, before I put the card together, was to show you the same stencils that I'm using today, using these brand new interference inks. Oh my word, mind totally blown. I'm not kidding. I have had a ball this morning with these inks. They are amazing. Lisa Horton, you are a genius. They are brilliant. So let's just quickly run through what I'm using today. So on my card, when we get to it, I'm using the Crazy Paint folder, the embossing folder. I haven't got the what's it for this, because I've had this for a while now and the packaging hadn't come out when I got mine. So that's the Crazy Paint embossing folder. And I'm also using two of the new items that are going to be on TV next week. So I'm using the Wisteria background, but only little bits of it. And I'm also using the Hydrangea Blooms, the stencils, the embossing folder and the die. Although you won't see me use the embossing folder and the die today, because I've already done all those bits. But I am going to be using the stencils. So all I would say, when you get these inks, if you buy them, when you get them home, take a piece of black card, A4, whatever, foolscap, whatever, and a piece of white, and do swatches of the colours on both coloured cards. And when you're looking at ink colours and thinking what you're going to do, remember to look at the lid, and remember that the ink colour that you see when you take the lid off isn't necessarily the ink colour that you're going to see on the card. But I'll show you what I mean. Now, I've had to write the colours down that I've used here because I would never have remembered. It's mind-blowing, but in an absolutely fabulous way. An absolutely fabulous way. So I've got my list here of what colours I've used, so I have to remember. So initially we're going in on these stems and this little leaf here with Sapphire Gold. Now Sapphire Gold looks blue when I take the lid off, but it will fade into green, okay, particularly on black card. I've done this on black card because I want you to see how fantastic they look on black card. I was going to try it on glitter card, but I thought I'd save that, and I might try it on glitter card over the weekend and then show you what it looks like. The other thing I would say is when you're using these, they do stay a little bit wetter than ordinary blending inks because of the mica in them. So I would just keep a piece of kitchen towel handy at one side so that you can just dab it dry, okay, because they are wet, and what you don't want to do is smudge your inks when you put your next layer of stencils on the top. Okay, so the first one we're going in with, as I say, is Sapphire Gold, and the reason I've picked this is because I want the green, and I know that the blue ink is going to turn slightly green on black card. How do I know that? Because I've already tried it this morning. So as Lisa said the other day, they don't like wonder brushes, okay? They dry too quickly to use with wonder brushes, so don't even attempt it. I didn't believe her, so I tried it, and she's right. They just don't like wonder brushes at all, okay? So you can see that looks blue until I take this stencil off, and then it looks green. It's so clever. It's so clever. When I was doing this morning on my test piece, I'm like, oh my word, oh good heavens. Now then, leaves. I think I used the same colour on the leaves. So let's go in with number 2. And remember, I've said to you before, when you're doing your circular motions with your inks, go in both directions. Same applies with this. They do dry quite quickly, so you've got to be, you've got to be on the ball. But I I just love that this is so blue, because it isn't going to look blue when I take this off. You can probably already see it changing, to be fair. But it's just, oh, I have never seen anything quite like this before. Unbelievable. Look at that. Isn't it amazing? Calm down, Dawn. Breathe, breathe. Right, number 3 is the veins, okay? Now I'm using a different colour on the veins. And I'm using Sweet Treat, okay? So I'll put that there. I've left all my little sponges with the right ink so that I can remember which sponge to use. Now you can see here it looks yellow. It's not going to look yellow when I've added it to this. In fact, I might not use my sponge. I will use my stencil brush. They do like the stencil brushes, but again, you do have to work reasonably quickly because they are a sort of a quicker drying, although they blend amazingly. They are a quicker drying ink, and that's probably because of the mica in them. Right, lift that off. Now you can see, although you probably can't see it very well, I can see it. Oh, you can. Looking on camera, I think you can see the different colours on there. Now it looks purple because of I've gone on to a different colour, and it changes colour when it's on black anyway. So I just think, oh, it's so clever. I just think it looks absolutely amazing. Amazing. Right, so now I'm going to come on to the bigger flowers. Now this is where I said to you, the ink stays wetter. Okay, so this is where you need to be aware of what you're putting down next. So just make sure that you just dab off the ink. Because it's a bigger space, it probably will dry a little bit quicker, but when you come to the detail on these hydrangeas, then they will stay a little bit wetter. So I am gonna dab those off. Now then, top flower. Royal Truffle I'm using here. Now you can see, and when I do this, you'll think, she's flipped. She's absolutely flipped. This looks brown, doesn't it? Can you see that? If I bring that up a bit, can you see it looks, I can't get it to look brown, but it does, trust me. When you tilt it in a certain direction, it looks brown, not blue. But when I put it on this black card, watch what happens. Now I'm only doing this top flower, okay? This is so clever. Can you imagine how much fun you're going to have with these? This is why I say to you, do a swatch, because the colours just won't look anything like they look on the lid. They really won't. So that's my top flower. That's that one. Now the bottom flower is Magic Garden. Okay. Now this looks green, doesn't it? It's not green at all. Watch. See, it's green on the Mylar, but not on the card. How cool is that? That's just amazing. And I'm not worried if they blend, as I'm not worried about that, because you won't see that. When I've finished, you actually won't see the fact that they've blended. But if you look at the colours on the stencil and look at the colours on the card, how weird is that? So that's the base of my flowers. I mean, look at that already. Doesn't it look just... I showed my finished item to my husband, and he said, that's amazing. They look like they're jumping off the page. Now, he's not a crafter, so for him to say something like that, I think that is just so fabulous. So the top flower, each of these flowers, I'm using the same colour on every layer, okay? And you'd probably think, well, it's not going to show up, is it? Each layer is going to look the same. No, it's not. Because the colour sits on top of each other, like it does with the blending inks, it stands out. You can actually see the different petals. I just love that. Brown, blue. Now, you might not be able to see it there, but trust me, when I've finished, you will. Now, remember I said it is a little bit wet. So I am just going to, only slightly, just press down. If you can see, there is a little bit of ink here. Now it looks brown on here, so I mean, you know, it's a bit messing with your head, isn't it? Blue on here, brown on here. Awesome, absolutely awesome. So next layer gives you the other parts of this flower, and again going with the same colour, because as I said, they will all be different gradients of the same colour, and you can go as heavy or as light as you want. I'm lost for words. I am absolutely, totally and utterly lost for words, because it's just mad. It's totally and utterly mad. Genius, but mad. Now then, what was my bottom bar? Magic Garden. And again, I'm going to go on here, and it's going to look green on the stencil, but it's not going to look green when I take it off. It is just crazy, crazy, crazy. Again, just going to dab that off, just so that I'm not sort of transferring anything. Now you can see there's quite a bit of green ink on there. Pink flower, green ink, pink flower. Mad. Absolutely mad. Okay, last layer of the actual petals of the flower. And just pop the lid back on there. Oh. Tell me it's not me. Tell me I am not going, you know, I'm not saying this just because I think they're amazing. They're mind-blowing. They are absolutely mind-blowing. There's just no other word for it. Okay, so now we're going to put the centres of these flowers in, all right? Now, when I did the first layer, I thought, no, I don't like that. It's totally the wrong colour because they don't really show up. So I totally changed the colour I was going to use. So this top flower here, I'm going to use Cherry Bomb. Now, looking at it, it looks red and it's going to go to purple. So you think, well, is it going to show up? Let me show you. Look at that, red. Looks totally red on here, doesn't it? And it is a beautiful red. It's not going to look red when I've finished. It will on white card. On white card, it's it looks totally different. You'll still get that shimmer in it, but it will look absolutely 100% different, as if you've used a different ink pad. Honestly, it does. And how do I know? Because I've sat and played with different inks on black and white card all morning. I haven't done any housework for days. Look at that. How awesome does that look? It's so cool. So I'll just put that back and do this one. And the bottom flower I changed and I went with pumpkin spice. And bear in mind this is a sort of a pinky purpley flower. Okay, so again I want those little centres to stand out. So this is going to be orange on here, right? But it's not going to look orange on the finished item. I just think these are so crazy. There you go. It's just crazy, crazy, crazy. Now then, I wanted the centres to stand out. Now, there isn't really a yellow. Although Sweet Treat is a yellow ink pad, it won't show up yellow on here. Okay, so I'm not going to use that one. What I'm going to use is, let me just dry that off. What I'm going to use is crushed velvet. And again, looks like I've totally lost my marbles. Right, let's go in with this. Now, crushed velvet is, as it says on the box, it's purple. It's a beautiful purple, but it's not really. And like Lisa said on her live on Monday, if you are a big Mermaid Tales fan and you thought Mermaid Tales were mind-blowing, you haven't seen nothing till you've seen these. These are just amazing. Okay, purple ink, gold centres. How fabulous is that? I have never seen anything like this anywhere. I have never seen anything react in this way at all. But I just think that it's, and I don't know whether my camera is going to pick up the shimmer on here. If I just put this light on. Oh, there you go. Can you see that shimmer on there? I'll just get it at the right angle. Look at that. How cool is that? Isn't that amazing? And the colours that have appeared on here aren't the colours that you look at when you take the lid off the box. They're just stunning. Well, I've run out of words because they are just so amazing. So amazing. So this is the one I've just done, and this is the one I did this morning, and I've added a few splats on there, and I used Lisa's white ink Falling Snow for that. But I also added I think it was crushed velvet. No, it wasn't crushed velvet, it was this one, Teal Twist, and I just put that on my mixed media mat, sprayed it with water, and then did a few splats on top of the flower. And when you sort of move it around, you can see the shimmer on the splats as well. But I just think, wow, run out of words. There aren't, Margaret, there just aren't. They are just, wow, that's what they are. They are just that. The genius, the absolute genius. Anyway, moving on. I've used Sugar Candy on here and Surf's Up, I think. Might have been Tranquil Waters, I can't remember. But I've only used one colour. I've just used different pressures so that it gives me different shades of the same colour, different hues of the same colour. And then I've just used the Woodland Moss on here, and again I've added my veins, and I've used a purple to add the veins just to give it a bit of extra colour. And you can see here I've just brushed into the base of the leaf with the purple as well, just to give it a bit of texture and shading. Right, so for this card, this is called let me put my book back, a vertical freestanding fun fold card. Okay, it was off a lady called Susan Campfield on Pinterest, and I just watched her YouTube and I've adapted it slightly, but not very much. So the main piece of card that you're going to use, this is the back of your card, the base. This is 4.5 by 5.5 inches. Okay, it's all in inches. I hadn't got time to change it to centimetres because I wanted to play. And then your second piece of card, let me take these bits out of here. Your second piece of card is 8 by 5.5 inches. Okay, and you need to score that at 1.5, 2 3/4, 5 1/4, and 6.5. Okay, and then you need to fold and score to give you sort of an accordion fold. All right, so mountain valley to give you an accordion fold like that. All right, then you need 2 pieces of, you can use designer paper here if you wanted to, but I wanted to use the embossing folders, so I've just used white card and I've inked the deboss side of the folder and just run it through my machine so that I've got coloured pieces that are embossed. Okay, and all I'm going to do is add those down to that piece of card, and if you make sure that you've got it equal all the way round, top, bottom and this side, it will be equal on the middle as well without you even measuring it. But these 2 pieces are 3/4 inch by 5.5, 5 1/4. I've glued over my 5 1/4. Okay, and then I'm just going to pop that down there, make sure that it's even top, bottom and side, because it will be even this side automatically. Okay, so again, same size piece of card, 3/4 by 5 1/4, and just add this one down on the other side, making sure it's level with this one. Okay, pop that down there. Again, making sure that it's even, top, bottom and side, and then that will give you an even space in the middle. Alright, so then this piece of card is going to sit in the middle here, and if you see, I don't know whether you can see that, when I add that down, you see it's even either side of that middle piece of card, so there's an even distance between my embossed piece and my piece of card that I'm adding down. Okay, but before I add that down, I'm just going to decorate it. Now, I've used the Wisteria embossing folder for these pieces, okay, and I've got two that are one size and one that's a little bit bigger. So this one is going here, and this measures 1 1/4 by 5 1/4, and all I've done here is exactly the same. I've inked the deboss side of the folder, and I've just used sugar candy and tranquil waters and just bounced the ink pad off the embossing folder to give me a couple of different colours, so that the colours tied in with the flowers. So that's what I was aiming for. The cardstock that I've used is from Lisa's Jules cardstock that she bought out quite some time ago now, and I'm pretty sure that it's not in stock anymore, and probably won't ever be. But as I say, you can use designer papers if you wish, you can use embossing folders, use whatever you want. It's whatever works for the card that you're doing. Okay, so then these two pieces here is where I'm going to add these two pieces. You're not going to add anything to this piece because you're going to glue the front panel to that piece. Okay, so make sure you don't glue anything here. So these two pieces are, I'm sure I've written it on one of them, yeah, 1 by 5 1/4. Okay, so 1 inch by 5 1/4 inches. And again, just glue those down. And again, I did exactly the same. Make sure my wisteria is the right way up, and did exactly the same. So you can either do one piece of card and then cut your card to measure, or measure your card and cut it and then put it in your folder and do it. Either way works. It's works out exactly the same. So do whichever one is easiest for you on the day. Okay, make sure the wisteria is the right way up, and then just pop that one down there like so. Okay, so that's my main bit of the card. All right, so now I'm going to glue this piece down to here. So I'm going to add my glue to the back. If you want to use tape, you can. I tend not to use tape because tape has a tendency to dry out, and you don't want the front of your card falling off the back of your card. So I always tend to use wet glue, and of course I use Lisa's because it's awesome. Now then, the easiest way to do this is to put that down there. How did I do this yesterday? No, it wasn't. Put it down there and then hold these two pieces flat so that you can place this down, and you can see where you're placing it, so that your gap between this piece of card and your embossed piece is the same both sides. Okay, and make sure that it's flush at the bottom. Doesn't matter, it's upside down now. No, it isn't. It doesn't matter if it's not flush at the top, but you need it flush at the bottom so that it stands up. Okay, if it's not flush at the bottom, you're going to not stand it up properly. So that's your piece of card stuck on the back, and then this piece here is going to sit on the front. Okay, so the easiest way to do this is to fasten your card, put your glue onto this panel, which is what I'm going to do in a second, and then line your card up so that you can see behind it, and you can see it's even. You line it up against these two pieces of embossing, it's going to be even both sides. Okay, So make sure you've got the same amount either side, and you'll know that this is going to be in the middle. All right, so I'm adding my glue down here onto this panel that we've left blank. Remember, we haven't added any embossing or anything to this panel because we're going to use it. Make sure it's shut, and then add your piece of card on top, making sure that it's about even on both sides. Okay, and make sure it's flush at the top and the bottom if you can. Definitely at the bottom, doesn't matter if it sits a little proud at the top. What size was this piece? This piece was 3.5 by 5.5, and then I just cut a small piece of white card that was ever so slightly smaller, so probably 3 3/8 by 5 3/8. Okay, just so that it gives you the very tiniest mat round here. All right, so when you open this card, it's going to stand beautifully. All right, and then you just need to decorate the front, and quite simply all I'm doing is adding my flower to the front. Now you can see that I've backed this onto black card purely and simply so that it pops on the front of that card. Okay, and on the white piece I've quite lightly inked in pink and the tranquil waters, so sugar candy opposite corners, tranquil water the other opposite corners. Okay, just to give it some interest in the background. I was going to put a bit of stenciling on, but I thought that was too much. Okay, so let's add this down to our panel, and then we just finish off with our sentiment. And I'm putting 2 sentiments on it so that you get a little bit of interest when you open it up. I've got a piece there that hasn't popped out, so I'll take that out. Okay, and then add that down to your panel like so. And if you make sure that it sits inside your panel, then it's not going to hang over at all. Now I've used the nested flags for my sentiments, and I had to do this one twice because I did them both like that and then forgot that this one was going to go the other way. So I'm just adding that down on the front. You'll notice I've not used any 3D glue on any of this, because I think with the card standing up on its own anyway, if you try and 3D the flowers and the sentiment as well, then it's just going to be too much. So add your sentiment where you want it to be, and then just to give it a little bit of added interest, I'm going to add the other sentiment onto the card panel just inside, so that you don't see it when the card's closed, so that when somebody opens that card they won't see it until they open it out. Don't forget not to put glue all the way to the end of your flag, otherwise you'll stick your card shut. I don't think I've put glue where it's going to stick. Right. Okay, so there's your vertical freestanding front fold card using Hydrangea Blooms, the Wisteria embossing folder and the Crazy Paint embossing folder. Cool, isn't it? I think that's really cute. I like that. But I like this even more. I just think I can't wait to see what Lisa does with them on TV, and I can't wait to see how the TV cameras pick up this shimmer, because it is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Can you imagine a card like that done on black with those flowers on the front? Just genius, absolute total genius. These will fly. I am convinced they will fly. So I hope you enjoyed that. So make sure you're getting quick, because I think they will be very popular. Let me find the embossing folder, and let's emboss. Let's emboss it and see what it looks like. Now, shall I cut it out first and then emboss it? I think I will. So bear with, this is a bit extra, so bear with. So let's just cut this out. Bear with, because this wasn't, I hadn't planned this bit. So let's just stick that down there and run this through. But we'll run it through properly. Let's make sure it's right. Don't want to waste all that beautiful stenciling by cutting it not quite right. Okay. Oh yes. Right. Let's add it. It looks even better now. Let's add it to the embossing folder. Make sure you've got the embossing folder the right way around. And then find one point, hold it in place, and then just move the rest until it all sits in place. You see that? I think it even looks brilliant inside that embossing folder. Okie dokie. Oh my days! Oh my word, look at that! Isn't that stunning? Oh God, Lisa! Flipping heck! That is just, I mean, it looks good there, but awesome, absolutely awesome. This will appear on a card in the future, I promise. And this one. Oh, well, I know what I'm going to be doing all afternoon. Just flipping amazing, amazing. Anyway, before I faint, I better go. I know I've run over, I'm sorry, but I hope you'll agree it was worth it. Definitely, definitely worth it. So have a fabulous weekend. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you all again very soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye now.